Welcome to The Freight Break with your host, Dan Lindsey, the podcast that cuts through the noise of the trucking industry. We're talking real conversations, real relationships, and real insight that keep the wheels turning.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Freight Break. Today, we get to break it down with my good friend, Mike Riccio. Mike is the founder of More Than Miles Consulting. He has spent more than 40 years in the logistics industry and has an exciting new venture that hopefully we'll get the chance to talk about today. But we're going to talk about the freight market specifically as it pertains to brokers, what's going on, how can brokers set themselves apart when it comes to building out their carrier networks, all kinds of good stuff. So strap in, let's get to it. But before we do, let's head over to TIE Software.
Meet TIE Software's workflow automation, built to help LTL and FTL freight brokers boost productivity. Use custom prompts to automate repetitive tasks like status updates, carrier changes, and shipment alerts right in the platform. Manage operations with automated scheduling, carrier management, and real-time updates. Workflow automation removes bottlenecks, freeing you up to grow your business. Best of all, it's easy to set up and use. No coding or tech skills required. Choose your workflows and TIE does the rest. Book a demo today and see how TIE makes efficiency happen.
The Broker Carrier Summit is taking over Orlando, Florida, the 28th of October through 30th. Join the best in the biz for 3 days of networking, education, and real talk with the top minds in logistics. If you're serious about growing your business, this is the event for you. Lock in your spot now at brokercarriersummit.com or bcsfreightnetwork.com, where the future of freight takes shape.
Welcome to this segment of Breaking It Down, where I get the opportunity to chat with my good friend today, Mike Riccio. Mike has been in the freight industry for a very long time. I'm not going to say how long, but it's almost as long as I've been alive.
Might be longer.
Might be longer. Industry veteran, former chairman of the TIA. He's been around the block for a time or two. So we're going to talk and break down what in the world is going on in the freight market right now, and specifically some of the things that he is doing with him and some of his partners in the space to help, hopefully, people and companies navigate it a little easier. Mike, how are you today, my friend?
Dan, as you can see, I'm hanging out at my place out by the lake, so I'm good. I'm casual today. I feel a little out of place. You're wearing the jacket. I'm not wearing the jacket. Normally, that's my MO to wear the jacket, so I'm impressed.
I wore the jacket for you.
I feel honored that you did. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't wear mine. I'm sure I will hear it from a few people, but I thought I'd go casual today and just kind of kick back and lay back and let you look professional and I'll look casual.
That's right. Maybe by the end of the call, or maybe on a different call, we'll get Mike to unbutton another button and go super duper casual.
No one wants to see that, Dan. No one wants to see that at all. You will lose listeners very quickly, and they will be turning the podcast off.
Gotcha. All right. Well, give it for those who are listening who may not be familiar with you and your work over the past number of years. Share what you are doing in the space right now and what your journey's been like in the freight world.
Yeah, so I'll answer that question that you started out that you're teasing me on. I'm actually starting my 39th year, if you can believe that, in this industry. So I think some of the gray hair will prove that. And however, I still have hair. Just wanted to put that out there.
It's a fair point.
That I still have hair. So, my journey is I worked for a family trucking company. A lot of my friends know this, and I won't bore everybody with the whole story. But my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, her dad owned a trucking company, and we were high school sweethearts. And I went to work for her dad, and was in sales and business development for a regional trucking firm back in the late 80s, in the early 90s. He sold that company. My in-laws sold that company. It was about 100 truck operation in the late 90s. That sale really didn't go as planned. And in the early 90s, my in-laws, my brother-in-laws, and my wife and I and some family friends started a company called Leonard's Express. And Leonard's is a hybrid operation that runs a trucking company and a brokerage. And I was in charge of sales and business development at Leonard's Express. During that time, as you indicated, I became involved with the TIA, the Transportation Intermediaries Association, a third-party trade association that I think you know, Dan, and a lot of people know, advocates and educates brokers and 3PLs in the industry. We joined that organization in 2004. Time tends to move fast on you. I think it was around 2007, 2008. I was was elected to the board of directors. As you indicated, I ramped up through and was the up to the chairmanship of that association. And I just cycled off the last April off the board there. So during that time period, I got to spend a lot of time meeting a lot of brokers, a lot of people in our industry, and have a better understanding of how the industry was running and some of the challenges from a regulations perspective and from an operations perspective and profitability perspective that, brokers today and 3PLs are faced with. And in 2021, I decided it was time to try my hand in something new and left Leonard's, left on good terms. Actually, I tease. I think my brother-in-laws are happier now that I'm not there, and I can be a true brother-in-law versus that pain in the butt sales guy. And I'm doing coaching consulting since 2021, 2022. I coach and consult brokers in the transportation space, help them create strategies on how to move their business from their current state to their desired state, right? Dan, I think as you and I've talked about, when you're bootstrapping your business and you're a smaller broker, a day turns into a week, turns into a month, turns into a year. And at the end of the year, it's like, how did I get here? And it might not be bad. It could be good. But I'd like to work with people on how do you create some intentionality on how to get to those goals and how to move your business forward to whatever that looks like for you. And I've been doing that for the past 4 years, and it's been a really intellectually stimulating, and I've been learning a lot, and hopefully I'm providing some value to some people. So it's been a really, really cool ride.
Well, I think if you're still doing it after 4 years, there's obviously value there, especially since let's just say the market of today is not the market of 4 years ago. So talk to us about those conversations with brokers, how they have evolved over the last few years. What are some of the top challenges that freight brokers are seeing in the space, in the market right now?
Yeah, it's really been interesting, right? So I hate to use the C word, COVID, right? But you think about what it was like before COVID, kind of what happened during COVID, and where we are today, right? And so you had all these people that got into the business during the COVID area. So there's a bunch of new people that came into the marketplace, which added a lot of capacity into the marketplace. A lot of people who were already in the marketplace, as we all know, saw explosive growth, and we all know then kind of the downturn. And the conversations that I'm having today this is the market. I'm a big believer in you control what you can control. And, you can control your sales plan, you can control your messaging, you can control how your behavior and your effort. And it's good to understand what's going on in the industry, but I think a lot of us just perseverate on when's it going to turn? When's it going to turn? When's it going to turn? Instead of focusing on running your business. So Dan, to answer your question, some of the challenges are just the lack of business, right? The additional capacity that's in the marketplace. However, I would remind people, this is kind of what it was like before COVID. I think we have forgotten those days. One could argue, yes, there's more capacity and so it's slower. But it's still, prior to COVID, it was, there was a lot of competition and it was challenging to get your foot in the door for new business. So the challenges went from people in the COVID area, right, finding people to work, to today it's now finding business and maintaining what you have, and technology. Technology is just in so many different industries is just changing so quickly And everybody's just trying to figure out what's sexy versus what's practical. And trying to stay on top of that is a real challenge for brokers today.
Yeah, well, in some ways, well, actually, in every way, I think COVID proved to be a prolonged natural disaster, right? And so if you're in freight, if you're in logistics or have been for a while, you know that immediately after a hurricane, right, or immediately after a flood, or immediately after some horrible, life-altering thing happens, some act of God, it's easy to book freight. It's easy to find loads. Everybody wants to rush to help. I
Right.
think we saw that over COVID for about a year and a half, just prolonged. And like to your point, it's kind of back to the way things were before. The new normal is, I think, closer to what the old normal looked like than people want to be comfortable with or want to admit. There is one difference though, and I think, and you mentioned it, and that is technology. In the last 5 years, the technology options in the freight space have absolutely exploded. So how do you talk to brokers about navigating? You mentioned the dilemma: what's sexy versus what's practical, right? Talk to us about that conversation.
Yeah, I think really what I'll do is we'll sit down with somebody, an owner and or the IT director or the director of systems or the management team, depending on the size of the company, and basically let's list out all of the software that you're using, right, from your TMS right on down, and let's talk through. Let's just do a quick little reconciliation, right? Let's list it all. What are you using? Are you using it? Yes or no? If you are using it, are you using it to its fullest potential? Yes or no? And if you're not, let's talk about, do you keep it? And so yes, I'm using it, or no, I'm not. And if you're not using it, should you be using it? Yes or no? Right? You do a little decision tree matrix, really simple on a Word document or a spreadsheet or whatever tool you want to use, and then are we using it? Yep, we're using it. Great. Are you using it to its fullest potential? Yep, great. Are you using it? Yes, great. Are you using fullest potential? No. Okay, what has to happen? Now let's just map out a plan as to what has to happen to use this to its fullest potential. And or if you're not using it, should we get rid of it once the subscription and the renewal date come up? And do we need is there a 60-day, notice? And let's have that conversation to be honest with ourselves. And so then once you do that, you then prioritize that software kind of to, overlap to what your goals are. What goals are you trying to achieve? And how does that software play into what you're trying to achieve? And then you take it and prioritize, the utilization of it.
Yeah, well, it's so hard, not only as a broker, but imagine as a carrier as well, because there's so many things out there, so many tools out there that whether you have a process in place or not of selecting your technology, there's a need for a piece of technology at one point in time, right? And so you go out and you get that thing, right? And then you forget about it, right? You use it, right? And you have it in your tech stack, you have it in your arsenal. But then a year goes by and you haven't used it, or maybe one of your agents uses it. Most people forget it exists, but the subscription renews. So that happens all the time. One piece of technology, though, that does not ever not get used is this. Right, this is my phone. It's my wife. It's my wife on the phone. Is the phone? Though,
hopefully it's your wife. I'm glide it's your wife. That's a good thing that it's your wife on the phone.
She can confirm it if she watches the show. She doesn't watch the show. But no, the phone never goes out of style, right? And so one of the things that I talk to people all the time about is how do you balance technology with actual personal one-on-one relationships? And I think that's something you and I have talked about this quite a bit, actually, over the last couple of years as you've been involved in speaking at BCS events and everything. So how do technology solutions and human relationships, how do they interact? Where's the intersection there?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question that I don't know if I've got the exact answer for, because I do think it varies based on the size of your company, the culture of your company, the goals of your company. Are you trying to grow super quick? Are you trying to maintain and it's a lifestyle business? What are you really trying to get accomplished? I do think that as companies look at, are you an in-house company, or in-office company, or hybrid or remote, right? Because that could all vary. And so I think, to answer your question, Dan, you've got to look internally as to what are we trying to get accomplished, and how is technology going to help. I'm a big believer in that. It's still a people business, right? It's still, there's a lot of voice spots going on right now, and I think there's a place for them, and feel that they can be utilized really effectively. But maybe I'm a little bit old school. I think the best way to effectively use them is with people. And so, how do you take this tool to help that individual be more productive, or reassign them to another area that they can be spending their time on, so they're not spending a ton of time doing administrative work, and they could be spending time on providing great somewhere else in the company for other value. Doesn't mean it's going to replace that individual. It's either, the goal really is to hopefully complement what that individual is doing to make them more productive and make their job easier, or do that job and take that individual, because you want that person's intellectual knowledge, right? That tribal knowledge. Computers, that there's machine learning, but there's still just tribal knowledge, because I think
it's not a human.
Well, and as we've talked about, it's so important, that relationship between brokers and carriers. And I think having a bot talk to a carrier in certain spots is great, but you need a human interaction. You need to understand the nuances of that carrier. How does that carrier make money? What are the areas that carrier does and doesn't want to go to? What are some of the challenges going on personally with that carrier? Because, you create that connection with that carrier. If the market starts to tighten up, let's be honest, carriers are going to gravitate to the money. They have to gravitate to the money. So how do you mitigate them leaving your business and going to another brokerage? And so you want to use the technology to get you to a point, but you want that person to complement what that technology is doing. So I don't know if I actually answered your question. I think it really depends on what's the role that technology is playing. Like, is it a sales role? Is it a carrier onboarding role? Is it a billing role? Or it combined with what your company's culture and long-term strategy is.
Yeah. Well, I like asking the question, because I don't think anybody really gives a complete answer, but whenever technology is brought up, I always like to ask the question. Because I think maybe at some point, after we've talked to hundreds or thousands of people, maybe we'll smash all the answers together, and then we'll have
come up with
some kind of crowdsourced solution
response
to how to bridge. But you mentioned something very interesting: carriers being more intentional and more selective about the brokers they work with when the market does tighten up. That's something that we've talked about at BCS before. And I think maybe it was you or somebody else who was saying that carriers as a strategy need to work with a handful of trusted brokers, rather than just going out and spraying and praying and hoping that they find something on, whether it's a low board or whatever. Talk to us about how brokers can differentiate themselves to their carriers in ways that actually matter, right? Because there's always strategies and things that brokers try and do to reach out to carriers, and very few of them actually go anywhere. So how can they actually stand out in good ways to their carriers?
Well, certainly it's difficult, because sometimes there's an inherent, I don't want to say distrust, but an inherent, friction, so to speak, or you're trying to understand, is this the real motive of the broker, right? So, the first way to stand out is I think very basic, that we all understand, is how quickly are you that you're going to pay what you said you were going to pay, and you're going to pay quickly, right? So number one, whatever you negotiated, you're going to pay that payment. You're not going to come back and nickel and dime them for whatever that may be. You set the expectations up front. You don't give them a list of 500 exceptions on the rate con, right? So that you can refer back to, right? I'm a simple guy. Simple is better. So I think keeping it simple, being upfront, it takes a couple loads to build that trust. And then once you build that trust, how you stand out is it becomes a personal relationship as to, you learn about their family if they're willing to express that. You learn about, some of the challenges that they've got going on in their lives. And okay, so how can I can I get you home on Friday so you can be to your kid's soccer game, right? Can I get you that extra load because you're just looking to run, right? You're one of those guys or gals that just likes to run, right? So I'm just going to keep boom, boom, and I'm going to reload you when you get, when I'm going to put you from point A to point B. When you get to point B, I've got a load for you. So you don't have to go to a load board. Nothing wrong with the load boards, but you obviously you want to keep your carriers internal. How often can I reuse your services? So similar to your show the broker, you show the carrier, I'm using you multiple times because I want to trust in you. How do we have a carrier, relations program, right? How do we sit down and talk? Would you be willing, Dan, as a carrier, to do a little quick review once a quarter with me, and I'll show you how many loads I gave you and how much revenue I gave you and where the areas I sent you and where can we improve on what we're doing for you? If you can create some sort of, and it's not easy, right? It sounds easy to talk about, but it can be done. You just have to have the intentionality to do it, and then the perseverance to stick with it. Kind of like you're talking about technology. When people first get it, it's all great, and then 6 months later, you're not using it. It's the same with carrier relations programs. Now is the time you should be building a relationship with your carrier, because you can use that, so to speak. I don't want to say as leverage, but you can use that when things start to tighten up. Hey, Dan, we were working together when I could have gone to 15,000 carriers. I decided to work with you because of, the great job that you've done for me. I'd really like to continue this as things start to tighten up. And some of that works and some of that doesn't. But to stand out, you have to, it's basic. You got to be a good human. The dispatcher has to be a good human. And like you and I have discussed, anywhere you can educate your brokers on the cost and challenges of what it's like to operate a truck, you're going to, and show that they can be empathetic to that and be authentic with their empathy. Because as you know, it's difficult to make money anywhere, but those guys and gals running trucks are really, really struggling right now.
Yeah, well, I think that intentionality that you touched on is key. One of the things that we did when I was running linkage was I would call as the founder, and I would call our carriers, and I would say, hey, you've ran 20 loads for us or 50 loads for us, however many it was. And I say, hey, what are we doing well that you like? Why do you keep coming back? And what do we suck at? We had the same conversation with our sponsors and our attendees at the Broker Carrier Summit. After every, you've gotten the emails. We send an email out the day after the event and say, hey, here's a survey. By the way, schedule time with Dan and the team, talk about what we did well. But more importantly, what did we not do well? And it takes intentionality. It takes authenticity to actually own that conversation. But I'll tell you, to your point, the level of relational depth that you get, and loyalty and brand acceptance that you get from just taking that extra step and asking, hey, what did I not do good at?
Right.
It goes a long way.
Well, and as you know, carriers know when they're dealing with a broker who's BSing them or price shopping them, or this is going to be a one-off deal. And I mean, you just intrinsically know that. I mean, and sometimes that's what both parties want, but that's not what we're talking about here, right? We're talking about how do we stand apart, and how we stand apart is truly being empathetic and understanding the challenges of operating that truck. How do we figure out a way to make that truck profitable and put a few dollars in our pocket? Because that's why we're doing it. We're not doing it for practice, right? We're not doing it for fun. And both parties need to understand that, right? So, how do we both make a dollar at this and be fair about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one of the things, and I want to make sure we get to this before we run out of time, because we could talk all day. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure that people were aware of is something that you have going on now as well when it comes to the marketplace in general. We've been in a consolidating market for a very long time now, it seems. And I don't know that is going away anytime soon. Talk to us about what you're doing with this new venture that you and some of your partners are starting, and how that plays into the overall strategy.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. So I'm part of an entity called Open Road Ventures, and Open Road Ventures is a group of individuals who are truckers, or run truck brokerages and trucking companies, that started an M&A firm really for smaller brokers. We feel that as the market as technology is continuing to change and become more expensive, that there's an opportunity for maybe a smaller broker who doesn't have a succession plan in place. Maybe they're looking to sell, but they don't want to ride off into the sunset. They want to stick around for a little bit. Maybe they don't want to be part of a traditional private equity sale or part of a tuck-in and work for somebody else. What we're doing is we're creating a platform for the broker to come aboard. Your name stays the same. Your operating team stays the same. You get some money up front off the table, and you'll stick around for the next 4 or 5 years. We want you around. We don't want to run your business. We want to be a resource for you to complement your business and help you grow your business. Not tell you what to do and dictate what to do and operate the business. And the goal is every year we'll bring 2 or 3 entities on board. The owners of those companies will create an advisory board, and that advisory board is going to help us decide what will or will not be consolidated, right? We will look to where can we consolidate costs to reduce transaction costs, right? Because it's all about how do we reduce expenses. But we don't want to consolidate for the sake of consolidation. We don't think that that's good either. And so the goal is to bring 2 or 3 entities a year. Where can we reduce costs? You are able to get money up front for your blood, sweat, and tears. You can be part of something larger over the next 5 years and help the company help Open Road Ventures grow. And then Open Road Ventures is going to sell that 5 to 6 years from now, quite honestly, probably to a private equity company or investment banker. And then you get the balance of your money. You're able to cash out a second time. So you're able to kind of de-risk. I was talking to someone yesterday who's looking possibly about joining, and they need a new TMS. And they don't have the cash for that TMS, or they do, but they're concerned about what that's going to do from a cash flow perspective for them for operating their business. And we'll see if we end up working together. But if they were to come to Open Road, they'd get some cash up front, and then we would help them. That they would use our capital to buy that TMS. We would consolidate down the road. Where can we consolidate expenses? Maybe it's insurance. Maybe it's bringing everybody together. From a software perspective, and to reduce their costs, and they're able to be part of something larger and get when they cash out the second time, get a much larger payout than they would if they'd done it on their own. So. It's really been exciting. It's been exciting talking to different business owners, understanding, what makes them tick, why they're looking to sell, and what they're looking to gain out of it. And we're not the right fit for everybody, but we just think that there's an opportunity for smaller people to come be part of a larger entity to grab that benefit along the way.
Yeah. Well, it's super helpful too, because then as a smaller or mid-sized player in the brokerage world, you get not only the value of being part of a larger organization, but you get an expanded brain trust around you that can help you navigate. Because it's isolating as an entrepreneur in any industry, freight especially. So it's helpful to know that, I can call 5 different CEOs over here who are part of the same organization as I am, and they're not going to give me BS advice because we're not competing against each other. We're actually trying to help each other out.
Your name stays the same, like if it was Dan, like if it was Linkage, it'd be Linkage, an open road venture company, right? It's your MC stays the same, and we tell people we're not money people. We're truck brokers and truckers. I mean, that's what we do. So we understand and have lived what you're living, and our goal really is how do we help a smaller business or mid-sized business owner be a resource to them to grow and be part of something bigger along the way. And they can make a few dollars and maybe more than they would have made selling on their own. And selfishly, we'll make a few dollars helping them do that. But we really want to be a resource. We don't want to act like, and nothing wrong with a private equity company. That's just not who we are.
You're actually going to be talking about that at the BCS in Orlando, which I'll actually be sitting in on, because M&A is one of those kind of like those dark corners that not that anything sketchy is going on, people just don't know about it.
It's funny you say dark corners. It's because I've had some interesting conversations, right? Yeah, that conversation at the BCS really will be about what it's like to sell. It's not about getting your company ready for sale. It's like what it's like we'll have a few companies on stage that have gone through a sale. We'll have somebody from the M&A side, from a brokerage perspective, somebody from the carrier perspective, and what it's like to be a business owner, what the expectations are, what it's like after the sale, right? What does that look like from an emotional perspective, and not necessarily a financial perspective, and because for a lot of small to mid-size business owners, they're emotionally attached to this business, understandably so. And this becomes part of their identity. So what's it like to go through that? It's all looks great on paper, but when you start to really, the rubber meets the road, there's a lot more to it than just, earnouts and EBITDA and financial statements. And so we want to talk about that, that side of the process.
Yeah, I think the most important thing that you're conveying there, Mike, is that you're not just truck people, you're people. I think that's important, because that's the piece that gets lost in that conversation, I think, a lot of times. So, well, thank you very much, my friend. My producer Josh has given me a red light saying, "Hey, you've talked too long." Welcome to Mike and my regular conversations.
Yeah, I could go. I could gab for hours, man.
Yeah, we'll make sure to have you back on sometime, maybe even before the summit again. I know it's coming up here pretty soon. But if I don't see you before then, I will see you at the Broker Carrier Summit. And if you, our listeners, are looking to expand your knowledge, especially when it comes to how to grow and maybe even transition your business, I encourage you to sit in on Mike's panel. He's going to be leading from the main stage at BCS in Orlando here in just a little while. So until next time, everyone, thank you very much, and take care and be safe.